Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah, everybody. I'm Robbie Hamza. This is The Talk. Thank you for joining us. I've got a dear brother of mine, Abdul Basir Rashidi, joining us today. Abdul, assalamu alaikum, bro.
Walaikum salam.
How are you?
Alhamdulillah, good. How are you?
Very good, bro. So Abdul's a lawyer, a criminal lawyer, who looks after a lot of us. We refer all the boys to. We've got a great deal of respect for, and I trust this guy a lot. And Wayakum, bro, it's good to have you here. And we want to have a bit of a conversation today about stuff that's gone on in the community, what you're dealing with. I want to sort of probably break it down and go into a little bit into your background in terms of like how and why you got into law. From there, we need to sort of have a bit of a look at sort of explaining the way the system generally works. Because I think a lot of people at home, a lot of families, a lot of people have got no idea what the hell they're dealing with until it's too late. You've got police in your house, you're standing in front of a judge. No one's really prepared on how to handle that situation until it happens, right? And then also looking at sort of what's going on specifically with our community in terms of what you're seeing, what's going on interstate, and we can sit there and daydream about why we think this is all going on. So let's start with you. What made you get into law, bro? Why choose this profession?
I had a small interest in high school. So when I was in high school in Sydney, I did legal studies as part of one of my electives, and then I was good at it. I found it interesting, and then I did it for the next year in year 9, 10, 11 and 12.
Yeah.
And then when I finished school, I went and got a normal job and just never thought about it until one day I just woke up and I said, hey, that's something that I could use, and, I got the brains for it, alhamdulillah. And it's something that I could benefit, but more importantly, if I could benefit the community, then I should give it a go. And then
your family's involved in law, right? Your older brother's a lawyer as well?
Yeah. So initially I started at law school. I went to uni. I was the first one. And then a few months later, my brother said, hey, that's something that we should all do. And then my second brother, well, he's older than me, but the second in the family, he joined up.
Oh, all three of you?
Yeah, no, my eldest one is not.
Okay.
He's an architect. So it's me and my the second brother, but he's older than me. And then, he's got his own firm in Sydney and Canberra. So alhamdulillah, he does
He does criminal law as well?
No, he does corporate, family, commercial.
Why did you choose criminal law?
I found that was the biggest thing in our community. A lot of the youth were involved. A lot of the youth were finding it hard. When I was studying law, I started studying in 2009. I think it was just the start of racial profiling, if I could call it that, of the Muslim community. It had been happening before, but we never got into the stages of where it was coming down hard.
And where were you? Were you in Sydney or Canberra?
No, so I was living, when I left Sydney, I moved to the Gold Coast to study.
Okay.
Yeah, so
I didn't realise you studied up here.
Yeah, so I studied at Bond Uni on the Gold Coast.
Okay.
And then I finished off in Canberra because I had to move back for my family.
Is it a 3-year course? 4?
At Bond, at that time, it was 2 years and 8 months.
Okay.
So they do a fast track degree,
Yeah.
3 semesters a year, which means you don't get the holidays, but it means you finish quicker.
Yeah.
They were the only ones doing it in Australia that quick, or in that period of time back then. Now a lot of the universities are doing fast track. I know Griffith is, UNE is, Southern Cross, a couple of the interstate universities are all doing fast track.
Yeah, no one wants to sort of wait 4 years before you can start earning money, right?
Yeah. Well, you don't even earn money after 4 years. You finish your degree, and then you have to do a practical legal training course, which is about 6 months. And then you have to do some work experience. And by the time you're even earning anything, it's probably close to five years. And then you'll be on a salary that you can probably earn more money becoming cleaner.
Yeah, okay.
Initially,
so you've really got to love it. Like you got to be in it for the right reasons.
You have to have a passion for it, and especially criminal law. Criminal law is probably in the whole legal profession. Criminal law is one of the lowest earning sort of sectors in law.
And I suppose you got to choose at some point what side of it you're going to be on, right? Whether you're going to defend people or you want to focus on prosecutions.
That's right. So
how do you make that decision?
that was a difficult one, because when I first came out of law school, I wanted to join prosecution, mainly because of the experience. But when I started my work experience and started my employment, I realised who they were in bed with, and I said, I better not get in there.
And you'd be up against every single one of your mates.
Well, it wasn't so much that. It was how they... my client is the defendant.
Yeah.
The prosecution is also... They're also lawyers, but they also have clients, which is the police force. So it'll either be the Queensland Police Force or the AFP or Interstate New South Wales or Victorian Police or whoever they're dealing with. Now, as much as I defend or try to... defend my client's rights and put up a case for them, the prosecution, who are also lawyers, will do the same thing for the police force. Now, unfortunately, as recent cases have shown, that it's not always smooth sailing, or they're not always 100% honest, the coppers.
It's been alleged.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So when I was thinking about it, I'm like, with defence, you have to look at the defence and see if anyone has a defence or mitigating circumstances, and you do your best to get the best outcome. You're having a client as the police force. You have to sort of make sure everything's done to get the result they want, and you don't want to be seen as letting criminals go. Quotation marks.
I imagine it'd be hard on either side of the table at times, because you must come across some people where you're conflicted. I imagine the prosecutors would come into situations where they feel like someone's really being targeted unfairly, and it would be hard for them sort of morally to do their job to the best of their ability to try and prosecute someone. But likewise, have you ever come across a client where you're like, okay, I'll take this on, and then you get into the nuts and bolts of it and you realise, man, this guy's a scumbag and I can't do this.
There are sensitive areas which I don't deal with. For example, child sexual abuse or child pornography is areas I don't go. So if someone comes to me and says, "Hey, I've been charged with it,"
thanks.
I just say, look, sorry, I can't. I won't be right representing you, because if something does come across that you have actually done it, then I won't put my heart into it.
Now, I'm the same with the chaplaincy. Look, and it, probably in the role that I'm in, it's probably expected that I rise above that at some stage, if rise above is the right term. But yeah, I can't have anything to do with TAMPs and stuff, child TAMPs. It's just, I'm not the right person. I will not deliver an unbiased message to that person. I just can't sit there, and come to terms with those sorts of things.
If the allegations come, unfortunately, we get a lot of them when divorce happens between families. And then one side alleges that the father or the mother sexually abused a child, and then there's no basis for it. It's just an allegation. If I come across a case like that, then I do take it on, because then until the brief comes, and if the brief shows something different, then obviously I'll decide then.
Because legit, there's a lot of that going on.
Definitely.
The family breakup stuff and how nasty it gets, and spiteful and vengeful back and forth, and it just turns into an all-out war, and anything goes.
Yeah. So unfortunately, that's what happens, and then obviously that needs to be investigated by the professionals, doctors, to see if there's any abuse taken place. They do their checks, they send us reports, and if the reports come, or there's evidence for it, then obviously that leaves me in a position where I might have to withdraw.
Yeah.
In a lot of those cases where there's allegations by one partner, that that the other partner sexually abused or abused a child, then I treat it with a grain of salt until the evidence comes.
Until you see the facts.
Yeah. In my dealings with matters, about 90% of those cases turn out to be just false allegations, because they're going through a battle in the family court.
Wow.
And they want to get custody or property, so they make an allegation to throw this guy off his or girl or the woman, mother, off their target, and then they just, let him fighting another legal battle in criminal court.
I must say, after the more time I spend sort of in this arena, working with people in these sorts of situations, the more reserved I've become about sort of making up my mind or having too much judgment, because it's, when you actually read the paperwork, you hear a story about someone, you make up your mind, you think, oh, they're putrid. But then you read the paperwork and you go, hang on a second, how is this guy even in court? How have they charged this person?
So that was my difficulty with going for a job in the prosecutions. Because you get a bunch of evidence from the police force, and it's an allegation because they think certain words on a message mean something, or a phone call between two people means something, when in reality it's just there's some explanation or innocence behind it.
There seems to be like a pretty low threshold for what's required to charge someone. Sometimes
that's the difficulty we have, and I think this is part of the problem we're facing in the community, is that people, they hang around the wrong crowd, and that sort of brings their names out on certain police intelligence or databases, and then now they start being a target because their friend's a drug user or a drug dealer. So next time they get pulled over, and then they feel like the police are doing something. But it's it's only reasonable suspicion. Like, you can start having telephone conversations with somebody who's a drug dealer, and you could be asking for money to borrow, or he may owe you money from years ago, and you could be asking for your money back. And then the police make something out of it. And then boom, you're charged. And then by the time that matter goes through the courts, and you defend yourself, and if it's a charge that gets indicted and goes to the high courts, you've spent close to $50,000.
Well, this is the problem, and this is one thing I really want to focus on, is the way the system is set up. And it really, the amount of guys I know who've been charged and they just end up putting their hand up for stuff. I've done it in the past when I was younger as well. You're charged with a number of things. Let's say 2 of them stick, and the rest is nonsense. I think it would be fair to say the average person, probably the average person in this country, can't really afford, doesn't have the cash lying around to pay what it costs to get a solicitor, right? Like, so the cops throw something at you, and then it's on you to defend yourself. Because, right, do you think, it seems to me that we watch a lot of American television, and I think we grow up here thinking that the legal system here is the same as is in America. I've heard people sort of ranting on about, oh, they can't do that, it's entrapment. Like, what are you talking about, entrapment? That doesn't exist here. So, first of all, I don't think we've got a really good understanding of the legal system that governs us here. And then once we're in the middle of it, you realise, who's got, 50 grand, 100,000, like, it'd be easier for me. I'd probably just about rather put my hand up for a sort of mediocre type of charge. I'd rather do 18 months in jail than cost my family 50 grand and put them through hardship.
Well, that's the dilemma we're in, because and this is the problem our youth are facing, because they get charged with offences that generally, if they're first-time offenders, for example, silly driving without a license charge. You get caught your second time or your third time, you're really possibly you'll get jail time, or a stint in prison, or a criminal record. But people get caught with a little bit of cannabis or a drug, and they don't think that this is the end of the world. But what they don't realise, or if they don't fight the charge, is they end up with a criminal record, and that's on your first offence, and you don't end up going to jail. And then on your second offence, you do open that gate up of spending time in jail. But they don't have. Giving one example, one guy from the community here, he went on a road trip with a few of his mates, and then had a blue, was left high and up in the air, sort of in a town in regional Queensland, couldn't get back until the following day, that his parents had to book him a flight back. And he had nowhere to stay, didn't have his wallet on him, couldn't book a hotel, didn't have money. So he went and thought the safest place was to sleep behind a police station. Went and tried to have a nap there. The police saw him on CCTV, came around and charged him with trespass.
Okay.
Now, the issue is that the cost of making submissions on the matter got rejected, so they said, no, we're not going to drop the charge. Taking the matter to trial would have cost this guy a good couple of grand. He didn't have the money to fight it. So for him, it would have been a plea of convenience. Now, if not many lawyers take these matters on pro bono, so for him, it would have just been, all right, it's a trespass charge, I'll put my hand up, plead guilty. But if he had done that, that's a criminal record on his record. I mean, an entry on his criminal record, and then it just builds up from there. It's those minor offences that people think, hey, they don't even think twice about what their actions or what they're doing. But 3 or 4 or 5 minor offences. Now got your names. The magistrates at the court know who you are. The police know who you are, and now you're a dot, or you're a target for them.
I think a lot of people. I know in my younger years as well. A lot of crimes are sort of committed in ignorance. I mean, there's the commonsensical stuff that that if I do this, it's and get caught, there's dramas. It's something to do with drugs or stealing or hurting someone and all that sort of stuff that a reasonable person would be expected to have some sort of understanding of. But when it comes to financial things, there's a lot of other stuff too you just don't realise. I mean, one kid I know was, when he was 16, was he 17 or 16? I think he's 16, out with a group of friends, a couple of kids he didn't even really know. They're out on the Gold Coast. They get into an altercation, an argument with another group of kids. They get into a fight. It's not an uncommon scenario. I mean, it happens, right? One of the kids that was with him pulls out a knife and stabs one of the other kids. Now all those kids who were children at the time were initially charged with murder. Yeah. And they're facing, at very least, manslaughter charges. And these young guys have got, they've got no idea. You sort of think, oh, well, I'm not doing it. If you're in a car full of blokes and they go and do a break into a house or something, if they bash someone and you think, oh, well, I stayed in the car, I didn't get involved. Nah, you're pinched too, mate.
Yeah.
I think a lot of kids just don't know what they're up against to weigh up the risk and reward of their actions.
This is part of choosing carefully who your friends are and who you hang around, because the laws here, exactly like how you explained, allow for individuals to be charged as, like, if one person in the group does something and it's done as a group, then other individuals can be charged. Now again, the case doesn't always stick, but by the time you go through the court process, it's taken 2 years. You've spent mum and dad's retirement money, if they have it. If they don't have it, you're going on to, working your butt off to make sure you can pay your lawyer. And unfortunately, the legal aid system doesn't fork out enough for you to get a lawyer that actually cares.
Yeah, okay, so let's talk about legal aid, because that's an interesting one. I've always known, it's common knowledge that legal aid doesn't get you much bang for your buck in terms of representation generally. But I was quite shocked to talk to you and find out sort of ballpark figure how much lawyers actually get when they put in a legal aid application for someone. I mean, it's peanuts. It doesn't justify really more than 2 or 3 days' work, and you're expected to...
Well, smaller matters, without going into too much detail, on smaller matters, a lawyer that's working on legal aid, on a legal aid grant, will only get probably close to 2 hours of private lawyer fees. Yeah. So you could imagine how
hard's this guy going to work for you?
Given your matters dragging through the magistrate's court for 6 months, and there's mention every month or every couple of weeks to progress the matter. For a matter in the higher court, you're probably looking at, if it's not a special grant or an expensive grant, you're only looking at, less than a couple of thousand.
It's a legal aid now too, right? Correct me if I'm wrong. If you want to run a trial, if you want to plead not guilty on something, for legal aid to, for you to be eligible for legal aid, they've got to sort of ascertain that you've got a reasonable chance of winning that, right?
Yeah, they have to assess. So your lawyer will put an assessment in and say, hey, we believe there's prospects, and then they will assess it and decide whether they grant funding for it.
And then if legal aid doesn't, you stuff, then you just got to put your hand up.
Well,
it's guilty.
Well, that's either fund your lawyer, because most lawyers won't. There are lawyers that do pro bono work, and but your chances of finding one of them is slim.
Sure.
So you're basically stuck between a rock and a hard place. You don't have money to fund a lawyer. You can't. You can represent yourself, but most people don't understand the legal system or how to put up an argument in court. So you get all that stress, and then you decide, hey, it's just less stressful to just put my hand up and take the charge, and then obviously consequences come with that.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, it's difficult to get legal aid funding for a committal hearing, for example.
Yeah.
So if you can get your charges thrown out at committal, or for example, you want to find out some material or cross-examine someone at committal, legal aid, it's very hard to get funding for that. It's hard to get funding for a Supreme Court bail application. I think it's only a few $100.
A few $100. Wow.
For a Supreme Court bail application, when
And most people are charging what? It's like 8,000 odd.
yeah,
at least.
the going rate is anywhere between 6 including GST, to close to 8,000, depending on the kind of matter it is. So you could imagine how many people or how many lawyers would want to run a bail application.
Yeah, you're going to get a real shady little letter to the judge. Dear judge,
Yeah,
please and thank you. The
Yeah.
end.
So that's the difficulties we face, and a lot of the youth don't realise that. Hey, it might be something minor that you don't think about, like driving unlicensed, or the third time. And the other big problem is this domestic violence we're facing in the community.
Crazy, eh?
Just they don't realise that. I mean, with the laws now, without downplaying the seriousness of it, you could get charged with domestic violence for yelling at your partner or at your children.
Yeah. Okay. So here's what I heard. Tell me if this is right. I heard that like now, even we don't want to give too much ammunition to the crazies out there either, who just want to put their partner in jail. But I heard that like, okay, let's say me and the missus are out, wherever we're out going for a walk, we're at the shops. If I get into a fight with a third party, like if some dude has something to say and me and him get into a biff, I can get charged. That's considered domestic violence on her behalf. Just me having an altercation in her presence. Is that right?
Yeah. There are cases where if you act violent, I mean, not necessarily when it's outdoors, but if you act violent so if she has a domestic, so if she, for example, witnesses you acting violent,
Yeah.
she could make a claim saying, that's domestic violence.
Wow.
So, I mean, like I said, it's as simple as yelling and swearing at your partner, or you being violent towards...
I think we've all been victims of domestic violence when it comes to getting yelled and sworn at. Yeah.
So, for example, you and your missus, and then there's someone sharing the home, or you're renting another room in the house, and you
beat up the roommate.
You beat up the roommate, and she says, "Oh, I didn't want you to behave like that." That's you being domestically violent.
Wow.
And if she makes a complaint, you could be charged for it.
Wow.
It usually happens when there's already a domestic violence order, and then you start yelling and screaming again, or towards another person. She's like, I didn't want you to behave like that around me. And then it just
I can get it. Like it makes sense. You can think of some scenarios where it would be, I guess the problem is it's like you've got two extremes. We've got like that horrible case that happened a couple of years ago where that ex-footballer set his family alight and himself, that murder-suicide. Man, how horrible is that? Like that's heartbreaking.
Look, the reason why the courts are treating it so serious is because we have we have one, I think the statistics are one a week of domestic murders.
Yeah, it's one woman.
One a week.
One a week.
One a week, or I think the last time I checked, it was one a week, or maybe two a week, or something like that. It's ridiculous statistics.
Wow.
And that's sad, given that in the community. So I think that's why the courts are taking it seriously, and rightly so.
It's understandable. Yeah.
But what we don't realise is that a young kid comes home from a bender and then starts putting his mum and dad through, yelling, screaming because he's coming high off the drugs or, alcohol, being out with his mates and his parents didn't want him to go out. If his parents call the cops because he's misbehaving or she's misbehaving, that's it. There goes that's the start of a domestic violence application. And once you call the police, again, rightly so, when they see something that needs to be addressed, they will make the application on your behalf.
They're obliged to, right? If they see that there's a significant risk to someone's safety, yeah?
Yeah, definitely. So now we get a lot of phone calls from partners of people who have been charged or are going through a domestic violence application.
Yeah.
Oh, I want to withdraw my complaint.
But it wasn't their complaint. It's the cops who've put it in place.
Put the application in.
Yeah, I see that heaps, eh?
So they write letters and they think the lawyers can do anything, but in reality we can't. We can't even talk to that person. And I always tell them, like, you can't contact me. I'm acting for for your partner, whoever that may be, whether it's a male or female. But this is why it's addressed so seriously.
You know, these domestic violence orders, the way they're set up, especially I see, you know, in and around the prisons. So you've got a DVO, and I'm not leaning towards men or women, but just for the sake of this example, I work in men's prisons. So, you know, you've got a bloke inside. There's a domestic violence order placed either by police or taken out directly by the partner. So he's not allowed 300 feet from her. He's not allowed to contact her or have anyone contact her for any reason. But she can go and visit him in jail whenever she likes. This is like, there's squillions of these cases, right? She can go in and talk to him, and the system allows, and the law allows, for her to go in and visit him. So for all intensive purposes, that relationship is continuing. And often there's kids involved, and she'll bring the kids, she'll come. And that'll go on. Let's say someone's incarcerated for 2 years. That relationship will continue on. She's going and seeing him the whole time. Everything's fine. He gets out either full-time or on probation. He goes back to his missus, who he's been with for the whole period of the order. And the second he's found at the house, he's rearrested and put into jail for breaching the domestic violence order. It seems to me that if they're going to put something in place and say there's a risk in this situation, it should be two ways, right? I mean, how can you tell a bloke that, you know, you can have half a relationship until you can't?
Some of those orders which allow for contact while someone's incarcerated is generally based around, most people have children, and so they take the children to see the father or the mother. But it's generally sort of based around, hey, well, he can't really do much in jail. He's sitting behind a glass. And, you know, the phone calls are monitored. So if he acts up and she does complain, then he'll be charged again. But yes, I mean, the difficulty is once you got a domestic violence order in place, so if, for example, if one person has a domestic violence order in place and they're not allowed to contact their partner, but if their partner calls them and they answer the phone, they've breached.
Yeah, see, that's
the difficulty sometimes we face. And we're like, well, what about if it was an emergency?
Yeah.
Or what about if, like, what's he meant to do? What if it's a private number? I mean, you're meant to hang up at the minute you realise.
Because you put yourself in that situation, and, you know, okay, let's say, you know, you've had drama with, you know, your loved one, it's been bad, you just get past it, you move on, time's passed, I'm in love with this person, they're in love with me, they're the mother of my kids, or they're the father of your kids, or whatever the case may be. You know, you sort of move past that, you're in a new place and thing, and then you've just got this third part, this government, Big Brother's telling you that you're not allowed to be in that relationship. Yeah. You know, that'd be a very hard thing.
Well, that's most of the breaches of domestic violence orders are that.
Those sorts of situations.
Those sort of situations. The court tells you, the orders are generally in place for 5 years. Now, like you said, people have an argument, the order comes in place because the police have made an application. A couple of months later, they cool down, they reconnect because, you know, for their kids or whatever the reason
life.
is.
We work things out. It happens.
They get past it, but then, you know, they don't have the money to make an application to amend the order or go back to court, or they just simply forget about it. They think, hey, if I just go leave and there's nothing going on, you know, we're not arguing, we're not fighting, we should be sweet. But then the police attend the property for a different purpose, and they realise, hey, you shouldn't be there because there's a DVO in place.
Yeah.
Boom, you've breached.
And I see a lot where, and again, I'm not picking on brothers and sisters, it's just what I see, but like a woman will keep the DVO in place, the guy, and invite the guy back into her life, and he's there, but she keeps it in place just in case.
Yes.
And he's not supposed to be there at all.
No.
But you can't tell the bloke, you're like, listen, mate, if you're going to get in this relationship, that thing needs to be removed for you for this to work. But they don't. And then what happens? Everything's good for a month, 3 months, 6 months. They have an argument, it blows up. She gets straight on the phone to the police. He's breached. Or she's got an ex. She's had a new boyfriend while he's been away. He comes back, the ex, and he calls up. It happened to a mate of mine 2 months ago.
Yeah.
You know, her ex got dirty because she's moved on, gone back to this guy that used to be in her life, and called, and so now he's on the thing. And it was just, I don't know if it was a mix of laziness on her behalf to go in and get the thing, but also just having that out card if they need it, so that we can get rid of this person if I need to quickly.
And the problem is when they do make those complaints, again, whether it's the male or the female, they don't just say, "Oh, he was there on that occasion." They spill the beans.
Everything. Here's the text messages.
Yeah, for the last 6 months, what's been happening, and then
Yeah.
this guy's got 20 counts of breaching the order.
Yeah.
And with domestic violence breaches at the moment, the courts are very tough. And your second or third breach, you're
in jail.
You're in jail and you won't get bail. Even a bail application in the Supreme Court is very difficult because they're treating it with it's a very sensitive issue.
I think the biggest problem we've got is people manipulating the system. It's making it hard to legitimately deal out justice and to manage this because of the people who are just using the system to get back and get spiteful.
There was another matter I was dealing with where in that case or in that situation, the wife called the police and made a complaint against the husband, but in reality, she was the one that had threw a cup at his head and sort of was domestically violent. But
he got charged for breaking a cup.
He got charged with domestic violence, and then he was facing actual jail time because she had made an allegation of that he had choked her.
Okay.
And all of that. So
that's a charge, right? Strangulation. They take it seriously too,
very serious.
Yeah.
Very serious. He was lucky to get bail. But it went through the court system probably for about close to a year, probably about 8-9 months, cost thousands and thousands of dollars. And then only when we got to committal, she changed the story and said, no, nothing happened.
Wow. I mean, I think it's a red flag. I mean, this isn't about life advice, and I'm just putting it out that everyone at home, this is just opinions. You know what I mean? By no means is anything written in stone, but I mean, it just seems to me that if a relationship's gets to a point where you're physically abusing each other, whether it's whichever way it's directed at, it's probably a good red flag to say it's time that we need to sort of either walk away from this or get some counselling. Let's not let this escalate into something worse. I mean, people are getting killed, and as you said, one a week.
Yeah.
Person is dying because of this.
Yeah.
I don't know.
And I think that's the two biggest problems our community as a Muslim community are facing. One is the drugs, which is a very serious issue amongst the youth.
Yes.
And then this domestic violence. I mean,
why is it such an issue within our communities? I think because people will, especially outside of the faith, will look at this and blame the faith for it because they don't understand. To me, it seems like there's a lot of different cultures that are coming in that are dragging different ways of doing things into the equation. What do you reckon?
It's hard to say why our community. It's not our community in particular. I think it's come as a shock to us because our community is not used to dealing or having drug users or drug abusers, or even alcoholics. We've tend to stay away from that fitna for quite a while.
We don't talk about it. I mean,
that's the other biggest issue. There's a young bloke in a family suffering from drug abuse or an addiction, but the family don't want to talk to anyone because they see it as a stigma.
It's a shame, yeah.
They don't even want to let the uncles know or someone that can, assist. The difficulty we face is we have a generation coming up, and it's the second or third generation in some families in Australia, where they still don't have a sense of belonging or achievement or a direction on which way they're going. And I think part of that is reflected on the domestic violence side of things as well. I mean, the kids are growing up and they don't know what they're doing or where they're going. If they don't have a stable job, our community has lacked providing that for them. They go get a 9-to-5 job and they want to attend Jummah prayers. They can't because they can't take a day off. So now they're stuck between, hey, what do I do? Or they may go get a 9-to-5 job and then they can't pray where they work. And then, so they're like, oh, I better not work. And we don't have, the community up in Queensland is not as big or as the communities in Melbourne and Sydney, where we have business owners employing other Muslims, especially the women who find it difficult finding jobs with hijab. or that they can wear hijab to. So these youth are growing up, and then they try one job, a second job, a third job, and then by the third job they're just exhausted and they're like, what the hell am I doing? And then they go off the rails, try to earn a quick buck by dealing a little bit of cannabis, and then the cannabis goes to ice and meth and coke and whatever else there is, thinking that that's how they're going to support themselves. And then the older generation are saying, hey, I'm getting old and my son's not in a position to look after me, or my daughter's not in a position to look after me. That causes problems between the parents, and then they have a go at each other, and then that leads to domestic violence. So it's sort of intermingled, and I think the biggest fitna we're going to face is this drug issue amongst the youth, because it's just smashing every other community.
Well, look, it underpins, and I'd be curious to see if you agree with this. I mean, I don't want to put a percentage on it, but I can easily say the vast majority of the guys that I deal with in jail are there for drug-related. When I say drug-related, it's not necessarily that they're using, may not even necessarily be selling, although a lot of the time it is, but it's disputes over money that come back to that. It's violence over issues that all come from that scene and that issue and the bizzo. It's a hell of a big part of the problem.
Definitely. I would, if I could put a percentage on it, I'll maybe say 70 to 80% of the clients or of people that go through the court system, in our community at least, is drug related. Whether it's collecting a debt, whether it's putting it on someone, whether it's selling,
just being drug affected and being an idiot and driving the car when you're not supposed to,
just driving or
impaired decisions,
driving or anything like that. They go out for a night of fun in the city. You know, they take a little bit of drugs and then they get into a fight. Again, comes back to the drugs. So yeah, definitely. And then, like I said, it's just a terrible thing that's happening to us. One, we have abstained from this fitna for a while, and now that it's hitting us hard, and we're not in a position where we can address those issues. One of it is like you said earlier, the stigma or the shame of it, or talking about it, saying, "Hey, my son or my daughter's taking drugs. What do I do?" But I also think our community leaders are not in a position to address. I mean, I don't deal a lot with the leaders, unfortunately, but the ones I do deal with, I don't think they would have any training. I don't think we even have the facilities to address people in our community who are addicted.
No, we don't. We don't have the facilities in our community.
We don't. I mean, a private rehabilitation stint to assist someone getting off drugs is 3 months in-house and costs you up to $30,000.
Easy, yeah, all day.
You know, and families don't have that.
Yeah.
And you know, it's. I think if we don't make a quick move about it, that's an issue we're going to have in the future.
It's very, you know, when you mention those figures, you know, it's like $50,000 to run a small trial on something not even that big a deal, $30,000 for rehab. It's a very costly freaking exercise. For us to be stupid and thoughtless and careless in terms of what we do. You know, we're young, we run around and we think, it's all good, and you know, it's between me and Allah, this sort of attitude. It's like, no, it's more than that. It's, you know, you're not going to dig yourself out of this hole when you get into it. It's going to be your family.
Well, that's the thing,
right?
Once you get picked up by the police, it's not your drugs that are gone. They're not going to take your mobile phone. All the cash you have stacked, you know, underneath your bed or you know, in your cupboard, that's all gone. So that 100,000 or 200,000 or whatever you're thinking, hey, I'm going to save this for a rainy day.
You think you're rich? That doesn't even cover the lawyer.
That is gone like that.
Yeah, good luck.
And then your mum and dad who are pensioners, and your brother that's working a 9 to 5 getting $20 an hour, and your sister that's, you know, on, you know, $21 an hour, is not going to be able to fork out the money needed to fight a trial or you know, even take the matter to a sentence, because it's going to cost tens of thousands of dollars, and then to get you the assistance you require, because there's a difference between taking a matter to trial and getting you found guilty or not guilty, or getting you sentenced, or getting you the best possible sentence. The side issue we have is, how do we address this drug problem that everyone's going through? And like I said, without the professional help, you're not going to get off drugs. I mean, given the drugs that are going around now, like meth and ice and all that rubbish, it's difficult to get off.
It's a minority of people. It's a very small percentage of people that successfully walk away from drugs long term forever, right? As it is,
definitely.
and even smaller percentage of that is. I mean,
and
you need help.
Without doing a professional or a good stint in rehab, you're not going to get off. I mean, you're already going to be cooked. You're not going to be thinking straight. So if you think, hey, I'm just going to come out and chill at mum's house or dad's house, and not do it anymore, forget about it.
Yeah, go back to the area.
The next time you're tempted, the next time, Satan starts whispering, this next time your friends say, hey, come on, let's just have a joint, and or let's go out for a night out. You've been out of jail for 3 months and haven't done anything. Boom, it's just, again, I mean, most people don't have the willpower to say no. That's how they get into it.
That's why people are dying every day from overdoses. It's not because they're choosing this.
So, I mean, fighting your criminal trial or dealing with your criminal matters on one hand is costly, but then trying to get off this rubbish is a whole, separate ballgame. And where do you find the money?
Here's a quick question for you. Well, it's not a quick question, but and I don't think there's an easy answer to this, but Muslims are about 2% of the population in Australia. We make up roughly 10% of the prison population in the larger states, in New South Wales and Victoria. I think it's less up here, but there's a lot less of us up here in comparison. I don't have an answer as to why that is. I think that it's something we should be thinking about. Are we being unfairly targeted and prosecuted? I mean, if that number was made up largely for, foreign incursion related stuff and things, political sort of crimes, I'd say, okay, well, that's because this spear has been pointed at us for a while. But I don't think that's really making up the bulk of it. We're just talking about normal crime.
Like 70-80% of people that I deal with are drug related charges.
Yeah.
Now we get those silly buggers that come about and they say, "Oh, they only targeting me because I'm Muslim, or they have a beard and stuff."
It's like you've been selling.
You got caught with drugs.
Tons of cocaine, actually. Yeah, it's got nothing to do with your religion, mate.
Yeah. If anything, don't play the religion card.
Yeah, please don't mention it.
The worst clients are the ones that come and they say, they every second word is alhamdulillah and inshallah and do this and do that. Brother, they only came to my house because I'm Muslim, or my mum wears hijab and this and that. Nah, brother, there was 8 months of surveillance on you.
They wore their shoes on my prayer mat. Like, brother, you've disgraced the entire religion in the way you're living your life, and you want to complain that a guy didn't take his shoe off.
Yeah. So
astaghfirullah.
Look, I don't think there are aspects where we're unfairly targeted.
With some things we are. Political stuff we are.
Political stuff, some other things, which is why my passion for being a lawyer is there. But then we also have, I think a lot of the criminal activity and why our numbers are such in prison is because we just got disenfranchised youth. Like I said, this is the third, possibly in some families, this is the fourth or fifth generation. Yeah. For my family, it's the second generation that's coming up or growing up in Australia. My brothers have kids, and so that's that's the third generation growing up. And it's still, we don't have facilities. We don't have. There was a small group in Melbourne that did it one time, and that for some reason that got shut down. But we don't even have a set of units or a community where, like, there's 10 houses next to each other that all occupied by Muslims, whether they're rented or not. We have wealthy people in the community, but we don't have for example, a business that employs half a dozen hijabis because they can't work anywhere. We have people wearing hijab or the sisters wearing hijab. They go get a job. They're educated nurses, aged care facilities, doctors, and they go to hospitals. And the hospital requirement says, hey, you have to wear short sleeves because there's an issue. Other people where brothers want to attend Friday prayers and they can't get a job that allows them to. So I think there's a clash there, and I think once life gets tough and expectations of if they are married, hey, I need to provide for my wife and children, or if they're not married, hey, I need to support my parents. It's sort of, how do I deal with this on the shortest way possible? And then they turn to, well, what's my mate doing? He's selling drugs and he's making $10K a week.
And the problem is, I don't want to use this word, but a lot of our brothers, a lot of our people are operating, you'd say, within the criminal world, like really successfully. And I don't use the term successfully, meaning actual, but they're making a lot of money. Like
Definitely.
they do it, they make it look good. You know,
Oh, 100%.
go to Sydney, go to the areas, kids.
You're working 9 to 5, 5 days a week, and then you're doing half a day on Saturday on a retail job. You're coming home maybe $800 a week. You got your mate who goes out one Friday night, comes home with 10 grand.
Yeah.
What are you going to do?
And I mean, you rent like a 2-bedroom house in Auburn or Lakemba,
Pay
$600 a week at least.
Yeah.
You know, how the hell can anyone afford to live on that?
Well,
Like,
that's the
that's
thing.
hard, eh?
And I think, look, again, we need to, our leaders or the community members or the committees or whatever we have going everywhere, not just in Queensland, but interstate as well. Everyone's focused on building $1 million masjids. We don't need $1 million masjids. No one is going to come pray at your masjid because it's $1 million masjid. If it's a prayer hall, they'll come and pray the same prayer as if you've spent $2 million or $3 million on building a masjid.
Whether there's a chandelier there or not. Yeah, I hear you.
You know, we have, alhamdulillah, our communities are growing, and yes, we need mosques every sort of every second suburb or so, but we have that. I mean, I think in most Muslim populated areas, we have a mosque within a 10-minute drive. I don't think you need to drive more than 10 minutes to get to a masjid or a musalla. I mean, the good thing in Melbourne, when I was living there, when there was a mosque that was 20 minutes or 25 minutes away, someone just turned their garage into a musalla, left the door open. You could come pray your fajr there.
And sometimes aren't they just the best places to go? Sometimes,
right, honestly, it's a small community. It's a group of brothers that live in the area. They come pray and they start building. But again, like I said, I mean, the rental market at the moment is crazy. So that puts pressures on families. So again, a young kid that's his mum and dad are pensioners, and they're getting evicted because the guy wants to jack up the rent. We don't have a basis for saying, hey, this family just got evicted. What do we do? Do we let them go and buy a house on interest because it's cheaper than renting? Or do we say, hey, we have a community project with, 50 odd houses there. If you need emergency rental, we'll put you in. And yes, if some people need to stay there long term, but like I said, the building, people may disagree with me, and that's fine, but I don't think we need, where we are at the moment and the problems we face in a community, we don't need $1 million, $2 million, $3 million masjids.
It's a very common sentiment. Like, this isn't. It's not. You're not on your own saying that. It's something I hear all the time.
Yeah.
I think most people.
We're getting our women are going through bouts of depression and anxiety because they're not doing nothing with their lives. They're in hijab, so we're living in, for example, I'm not putting any suburb down, but for example, let's say they live in Logan or Crestmead or wherever it is. Their next two neighbours on both sides are redneck Aussies. The guy across the road is a redneck Aussie. He comes out every day with BB. This poor woman's stuck in a house. Whether it's a housing commission house, whether it's the cheapest rental they could get on the market, but she's got nothing to do. And then that builds depression, anxiety, issues in the family. She starts having arguments with the husband. It reflects on the children grow up disfranchised and all of that. Like I said, in Melbourne, there was one group, and they had a little musalla, and across the road from the musalla, there was a whole set of units. And what they did, alhamdulillah, the first person that got their foot in there, the minute a rental came available, they put the next Muslim family. Yeah. There was about 15 townhouses. And by the end of it, all 15 of them were rented or purchased by Muslims. And it was similar to a gated community. They were all living there. All the kids grew up together. Everyone was watching someone else's kid. The women were hanging out, picnics every day. We don't have that anywhere. I haven't seen it in Sydney, and I haven't seen it in Queensland. And that was the only place I saw it in Melbourne, which was southeast Melbourne, and it was just small. It wasn't happening anywhere else. And then we have fundraisers for to build masjid and put this, but we don't have a rehab center. Like, this is a problem that's coming up. We don't have facility to assist people going through domestic violence.
Yeah, even housing. I mean, I'm with Muslim Charitable Foundation. Shout out to MCF. I've been with them for 8 years. We own a house at Woodridge that we use for emergency and short-term accommodation. A lot of victims of domestic violence and people in all sorts of situations come through there. But it's one house, so if we've got one sister in there. You can't bring anyone else in.
Well,
We're looking at trying to buy a small block of units. Raise $1 million to do that to provide housing options because there's just nothing.
Yeah, there is.
I mean, I've seen people chased away from the mosque. People literally homeless people sleeping outside the front. They've got the little sleeping bag or whatever around the side, and people freak out. They don't know what to do. And it's not like. I mean, we should be more warm-hearted towards people, but I get people that don't know how to deal with it, and it's just like, oh, this is yucky. I don't know how to deal with it, and so they just shoo people away.
Yeah.
But that's not, man. That's
I mean,
that's not our religion, eh?
Because it's not just happening
be
in
like
us. It's not just a Muslim coming to get a free ride by living at the masjid.
No.
Or sleeping in the masjid. I was reading the news the other day, and there's families with little kids, Australian families, like Anglo-Saxon families, that have got kicked out of the rental market, and they pitched a tent in a park with 2 little kids.
Yeah, it's happening now, eh?
The other day I was reading statistics in Queensland or southeast Queensland. There's 47,000 homes, or a survey of 47,000 rental homes. Only 7% of them were within a working family's budget, like a husband and wife working, earning up to 120k a year.
Wow.
And only 7% of those homes were affordable to that thing. Now, like I said, in our communities, we have a lot of the elder generation who are pensioners who are relying on Centrelink, the younger generation who have got 9 to 5 jobs in industries which only pay peanuts. Where are they? Where do we put them? They'll get an eviction notice. They've got 30 days to get out, and they can't. At the moment, they can't find a rental. So what do? They're either tempted to go buy a house because it's cheaper than paying rent, and then they're stuck to the interest. Or, I mean, some people don't have any problem with interest, but that's each to their own. Or what do? They camp in their car or come try to, sneak a night of sleep in the masjid. At least shower or something like that. But these are the problems that I think is not. It's definitely not being addressed. But whether people are turning their minds to it or not, it's a separate issue. Like I said, that's just housing, and then we have employment. I mean, this disenfranchised youth. Coming back to the topic of why this is, why are we seeing so many Muslims in jails? It's because of disenfranchised youth. I mean, where are they going to get a job? Where have we built let's say a factory, let's say a business that employs 10 Muslims?
That pays good money.
Pays good money
Because
that's the issue. Because every time we want to employ a Muslim, or give a contract out to another Muslim brother or sister that's got something,
discount.
we say, where's the discount? Can you do it for cheaper?
And that's the thing. Look, there's been I've been blessed to know a lot of brothers in the community that will offer work to people sort of like that. But it is a case of paying someone $20 an hour. Or $120 a day, and it's sort of like, alhamdulillah, like it's something. But if that doesn't cover rent, what am I really doing now? You're taking 40 to 50 hours of my week off me to give me something that isn't enough to sustain myself. There's no more hours in the week for me to make it somewhere else. Yeah. How are you helping me?
So that's it. It comes back to, hey, I'm in a desperate need.
Yeah.
I need to pay rent next month. I don't have jack all. And so what do? Their mate comes and says, mate, here, sell this and you can make $2,000. Boom. That's all it takes to start. And they may not have a history of using drugs. They may have never been tempted. But the life stresses get to you. And then that's it. That's where it starts.
Yeah.
And it just goes on. And once you start making money that way, you love it because you're saying, hey, I don't have to do 50 hours. I'm not going to break my back for somebody else, and then that's it. And then, bro, employment, housing, and then now it comes to rehab, so that's where it starts. And then now I don't think anywhere in Australia we have a rehab facility. Alhamdulillah, we got budgets worth $5 million.
Yeah.
But we can't raise $1 million to put towards a rehab facility, which not only assists the community, but it also generates income. A lot of talks that I have with people is, hey, if you're going to spend $1 million on a masjid, at least make it an income-generating masjid. Like put some shops downstairs, put a cafe downstairs, put something where at least it can pay for itself. You're not constantly relying on people to commit or donate. I understand the benefits of donating to the House of Allah, but again, hey, we can use that money for other needs. It's not, you don't necessarily only get rewarded for donating to the House of Allah. I'm pretty sure if you donate to housing to house somebody, Allah, if you give someone shelter, Allah will give you shelter on Day of Judgment. Yeah, we
got to spread out the resources a bit.
That's the issues of why we're seeing so many people, or a good percentage of the Muslim population in jails, or why they make up, like you said, 10% of people in jails, is because it starts young. It starts young. I mean, I was growing up. My brothers were the ones that did it tough. They started working when they were in year 5.
Wow.
Mashallah. They were working before we even came to this country. We were refugees when we escaped the war in Afghanistan, and they were working like from the age of, as soon as they knew which way is left and right, they were working. And then when we got here, it was school, and then by year 5, the one was working at a restaurant, and the other one was trying to sell stuff at a place called Venture, which was like Harvey Norman. They were like 10 or 11 years old.
But isn't it interesting the way people go left and right? Like you sort of, that story, your story and your family story of coming here and being in need and having a hard time bred within you kids the desire to do something better and do something good for yourselves and for your family. But then you see other people in exactly the same, and you sort of think, I tend to think, one of the big problems we seem to have here is I think, kids don't and young people don't have that much responsibility. I think in some sense it's like we've got it too easy here, because when you need to go out and work, that builds character, right?
There are two things. You see, when we were growing up, I mean, again, drugs was available and dealing and all of that, making money that way. But it was also a big no-no even amongst like your group of friends. Like when I was growing up in Sydney, Western Sydney, the people that were sort of dealing drugs were your Asian communities, your the 5T gang or whatever it was, all those people. You hardly heard of it in the Muslim community. But now
things have changed, man.
Everyone in the Muslim community is doing it.
Come down to Tilapia Street, yeah.
So like I said, I mean, we came from a hard-working family, alhamdulillah, but even the small aspects of smoking, like I never got into it, one, because my brothers would have beaten the hell out of me, but also when I was growing up, I was hanging around my cousin, and he wouldn't let me get into it. He was my age, but he was like, hey, no, you can't smoke, this and that. Now you got almost every person smoking, and then when you're doing it tough, you got your friend encouraging you, hey, I just made $2,000. You're just doing it tough. Here, move this and you can make $2,000.
Don't you think we're missing in our community, specifically the Muslim community, the stick? We let everything go. I don't know of any groups anywhere in the country that are giving young fellas a good kick up the backside for getting involved in stuff like this. It's, we call to the good, come to the mosque, do this and everything, but we don't stand up against our own brothers when they're doing haram or oppressing. 100%. It's too hard basket. We don't want the dramas.
Yeah, I think the community mindset or the people that are involved in this kind of stuff is like, hey, bugger off. It's my life. I'll do what I want.
Yeah.
And again, I think that missing the stick is right across Australia. It's not just the Muslim community, because you get a bunch of these, eshays as they call them, these 12, 13-year-olds walking around with their Adidas caps and thinking they're untouchables. No one can do that. They'll run amok and do whatever. And that's Anglo-Saxons.
And that's right. And they do get, like, there was these young guys that breaking into houses just up the road here, Currabee, right? And then something happens to them. One falls over or someone gives them a smack in the mouth, and that person's charged. These guys have been breaking into houses for the last 6 months.
Yeah. We're certainly missing that stick from the Muslim community, but again, the attitude of those people are, hey, it's my life, I'll do what I want, bugger off. But again, you're right, we need to turn around and say, hey, well, if you want to do that, and it's rightly so, your life and do what you want, then don't get involved.
Yeah, but it affects me, it affects my kids, 100%. It affects my family. Because when yous are shooting at each other, the bullets that are missing are flying into my mum and dad's house or the next door neighbour's house or someone else. It affects us all, eh?
Definitely. And especially, the drugs that they're selling, it's going to affect your brother, your sister, your children, your cousins, and then they've brought that home. Your kid who's turned 16 has rocked up and said, on a bender, and you're like, hey, he got those drugs of another Muslim guy from the masjid that we know. Yeah. That we know. And I think that's a big problem that we're having. But there are communities in America who have taken it upon, Muslim communities, and if they find someone, they'll just kick him out of the community. Yeah. Or probably a little bit harsher than that. They deal with him, and they've been dealing with it good. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. They're the black communities in America. Okay. And I've been I used to read up upon them, and mate, they've been doing a good job. And like you said, bring back the stick and sort them out.
We need something there.
Yeah, and you can't be sort of hopeful that he's a Muslim brother and every second word's alhamdulillah inshallah and he's gonna come good, he's gonna turn his life around. Force him to turn his life around.
How many lives is he going to destroy while we're sitting back waiting for it to happen?
I know what you're doing. Bugger off. And the second time you do it, I mean, like you said, bring back the stick.
Bring back the stick.
Bring back the stick.
Look, bro, I'm getting the nod.
Yeah.
So we're running short on time, but it's been a really excellent conversation. We need to have more conversations. We're going to put up Abdul. Again, it's Abdul Basir Rashidi. I'm going to put his name up. I don't know if I'm pointing to the right side. We'll point to both. Yeah, I'll point down here. We're going to put his number up, Abdul's number up on the screen with your permission. If you've got police contact, at home or the kids, a quick word of advice. The first thing generally any lawyer will say to someone is don't say anything, don't speak. Anything you say does get used against you. So you find the best thing you can do if you've got police rock up at your house or they're charging your kids or anything is just to contact a lawyer. We're giving you a good lawyer to contact. And let them guide you. Don't think that you can talk your way out of a situation because very often you talk your way into a much bigger mess than you realise. So, brother, Jazakallah khair.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for coming. We'll see you again. And Salam alaikum wa rahmatullah to everyone at home. Bye-bye.